Hey, welcome everyone. We've got a good, wonderful show in store for you today here on Shine Your Light. My friend Andrew Deering, my friend through LinkedIn, is joining us today. And he is a guy that is passionate and obsessed with helping leaders create a shift into being the best version of themselves. And Andrew is known throughout the world as an expert in building capability through one-on-one coaching, team facilitation, and organization-wide initiatives. He spent more than 20 years working with organizations and leaders, delivering operational and organizational development and change programs. He's worked with organizations like Shell, the West Australian government, and Santos. And he's also the CEO of the Deering Group, one of Australia's leading experts in organizational, transformational capability and change. And he's approach of holding the space for others is done through a unique blend of humanity, humility, authenticity, and kindness. And this allows the people to create the shift that they need in a way that enables and accelerates the outcomes in a safe space. I want to welcome Andrew. Thank you for coming on with us.
Absolute pleasure, Bert. Absolute pleasure.
Yeah. Now, Andrew is in Australia, and we're here in Florida. So he's actually tomorrow, and we're still in today. He's in tomorrowell. So
just let you know, yesterday was a good day, Bert. So it'll finish well.
Oh, okay, good. I'm happy to hear that. Well, here I could cheers you with a glass of wine, and you could cheers me with a cup of coffee.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll just do the yeah.
Excellent.
Yeah, look, it's lovely to be here. It's I've been watching your work, and I've been really impressed by what you're doing inside the world, and it's really needed. Sharing the awesomeness and sharing kindness and encouraging others to just take up the mantle of having those conversations that are needed so much, especially like, gosh, who would have seen what was happening in 2020 9 months ago, you know?
Right.
Ever more than, I think it's just done a wonderful accentuation of how important this work is that you're doing. So well done.
I just thank you so much for that blessing. And I appreciate you. I want to say and share with everybody that's watching, why I'm such a big fan of yours. And that is because, well, first, I think you're ahead of your time with what you're doing with the corporate work that you're doing and empowering not only the leaders, but also creating that empowerment from within to challenge those people that do the humdrum day to day, but are able to seek out to be challenged by that job and the position that they're in. But where you are set apart, and if y'all get a chance, you need to follow Andrew on LinkedIn and see his content is amazing. He spent a month on just kindness. And let me tell you, it was powerful. Each one of his posts was powerful. He uses words that a lot of people don't, like contentment. Okay. That's a powerful word. We don't use it that often. We don't think about it that much. But being content is one of the most empowering words and topics, some of which that I've watched you use. And one of the lovely posts that you made was taking your boat in, not your boat, but the ferry boat in to work in the morning. And just kind of taking a little breather, saying, hey, look, instead of getting to work so fast, I decided to take the boat today, Yeah,
it's so important, Bert. I think, one of the things, again, the work you're doing, the awesomeness, the reflection piece on self. I think kindness is one of those pieces where we talk a lot about how we can be kind to others, how important it is to be kind to others, and we forget that kindness to self is probably the most critical and first step that we need to do. And things like contentment and giving yourself a break and having a breather they're not copping out. They're not weakness. They're actually strong things to do in the service of self. And there's a bit of another series that I'm going to start soon, which I know you will love, which is all about serving self is not self-serving. And I think we can often get lost in that. And kindness is the key to me in that, to making sure that we are serving ourselves as best as we can.
Right. And you've the book that you've written called Creating the Shift. Do you have it? All right. Create the Shift. And see what it says down there below. Volume 1, you. Book 1,
absolutely.
you. And that's what I think is very cool is there you are. And that it begins with the individual and the empowerment of the individual. There's one thing you're in control of 100%, and that's you and your choices and what you do. Now, I know that at some time ago, you yourself went through your own shift and went through that. Can you share a little bit about that?
Yeah, look, and I've been through a couple. If it's okay, Bert, I'd also like to explain why shift, why that word means something to me. And I think one of the reasons that it's been particularly empowering to me and with the other people I work with is we often hear a lot of other words, like right now amongst this COVID complexity, we hear words like pivot and change. And to me, those words really, they're great words, but they have a sense of ease about them. To pivot is just to turn on the spot. There doesn't seem a lot of effort with it. The reality is when we're doing work with ourselves, there is effort. We do need to do work. It isn't just a matter of flicking a switch from on to off. Sometimes it can happen and it's awesome. Lots of the times, though, it's actually habitual, making new habits, starting new patterns, doing the work, which is why we talk about shift. Because shift, if anyone's ever moved house or shifted house, had shifted anything, there's effort. It's hard. It takes time. There's energy. And yet when it's done, it's just fantastic. So that's why we talk about shift. My own shifts, gosh, there's been a number of them over time, and I'm still going through because I'm still a piece of work that is very much under.
Aren't we all?
Yeah, until the day I die. If I stop doing that, then I'm probably dead. And for me, a couple of the big ones, and I talk about one in the book where I had a just a bad Meccano set with my back, we'll call it. The old Meccano where you put things together. My spine failed me. Right. And I had some bulging discs and discs missing and all sorts of challenge. And I remember laying in bed after having spinal surgery, which, by the way, was brilliant. And ever since, I've never had a problem since, which is such a gift. That was one moment where I realized, laying in bed with my kids around me, and I'd always said to them, you can be anything you want to be, but I wasn't necessarily living that myself. And, laying in bed kind of going, right, I got to start walking my talk and living the life that I need to live. And from that, there was a series of shifts that occurred. And, not long after, left the business and started my own business and started to do a lot of things very differently, which, at the time people thought I was crazy because it was in the middle of a terrible, global challenges. And what are you doing? You're going crazy. And at the same time, I knew I had to do this work. I knew this was what I was meant to be doing.
Did you feel like once you got switched over to where your focus was, did it seem to flow, or
I'd love to say I crossed. It was magical, and I just took off on the carpet. No, it was hard work, and there were days. I have to admit, there were days in every one of those changes that I made where I wondered if I'd done the right thing in moments. But I had a very clear goal of what I was trying to achieve. I had very clear steps how to get to that goal. And I also held them loosely enough. We often, I talk about with people holding things lightly and tightly. It's important to do both. And that may sound a little bit obscure or two ends of the stick, but it's really important to hang on to things tightly and really focus and hold them lightly enough to know when they need to change.
Right.
Because things constantly change. Gosh, look at this last 6 to 9 months. Things have changed. And inside that change, or inside the shifts that have occurred, there's a huge amount of opportunity and there's been a huge amount of challenge. So no, look, I won't say it was all easy, but I will say, I think reflectively, Bert, while it wasn't easy, every time you make those right choices, you get a sense of rightness, or you get a sense of alignment to purpose, and that's what fuels the fire. So you keep pressing in, you keep pressing on, because it feels you're on the path that you're meant to be on.
Yeah, I feel like it's almost an empowerment
Yeah,
if that comes out of when you get on a path like that, that there's not really too much doubt in it, and you know that it's the right path. It's just trying to figure out, I keep on going down here and then I hit a block wall. So, you know,
yep,
I, I,
absolutely,
I assume that's a part of the shift philosophy.
absolutely. It is, Bert, and I think what you just said there is just beautiful. It's that understanding that nothing's ever final, but it may require a slight detour or a change to the plan. Make the change, make the detour, but keep in mind the end goal. Keep in mind the purpose. As you said, keep in mind that where you're heading toward, because that is where you can draw your power from, the empowerment that you need. And there are times when it feels like the mountain is just too tall. Again, those days, it's okay to stop and have a cup of tea or coffee and give yourself a wee break. It's not a bad thing, because I think on the other end of things, when we're driving toward outcomes or what we're trying to do, and in the work we do, we talk about the shift. When people are working on the shift, a big part of the shift is book one. You very well picked up, Bert, by the way. Actually, funny story if I can. I remember when my wife finally saw the copy of the book, and and I love it dearly. But the comment she made to me was, book one, you're not going to write more, are you? Kind of the hint there, isn't there? But it is really important that, so often people try to do change around them, outside of them, beyond them, and yet they don't do the work in them. And nothing else is as meaningful as lasting if you don't do the work in self. What I read about your work, your walk, and you are walking your work. It is all about you improving you to be in service of others.
That's absolutely right. Yeah, the saying from the Bible, the part about love your neighbor as yourself.
Yeah.
Well, you got to love yourself first, before you got to push out to your neighbor, and that's the most important person to make sure that you have a good, healthy place, and you're again content is that word we like.
Spot on, Bert. And earlier I talked about serving self is not self-serving. The second part of the conversation we have with folk is serving self is the greatest way you can serve others.
Right. Absolutely.
It is exactly what you're talking about. If you aren't serving yourself as ably as you could, you will never be as able to anyone else you wish to serve: community, family, friends, business, whatever. The better you're doing you, the better you'll do them.
Yeah, and you're representing the fact that it can be done, and it's okay, to take hits and bruises along the way.
Absolutely.
And and it's not all fun and games, But that's why I created the Shine Your Light. Shine Your Light is also a website where I aggregate positive news stories for people to be able to share on their social channels, to be able to push out some of the greatest of humanity that's going on, with the different fun little nuggets of people sharing kindness.
And there is a huge amount that happens, Bert. I think it's awesome that you have that website and have that access for others in service to them, because there's so much good that is happening, even amongst the messiness of now. And I think that's one of the important things. You can't ignore what's happening in this time window where we're having the opportunity to meet. I think even the ability to have these types of meetings is only increasing. The world is getting a little smaller, again in a really powerful way, your message can carry further. Like, as you said, it's yesterday for you, it's today for me. And here we are almost on other sides of the world, you in Florida, me in Brisbane, Australia. Fascinating, and what gifts that can bring. So, yeah, it's good.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm going to talk about my friend Jimmy Fasig. He's one of my best friends, and he actually has a site that or a Facebook page that he is come back stronger, and he's a
Okay.
personal injury attorney. And in his Comeback Stronger, he always has talked about how when you're dealt with something like a coronavirus or something like that, that you can actually make that shift to make it a positive thing, not a negative thing, because the negativity will always suck you in. It's just,
Yes.
are you going to absorb it and say, this is a good time. I can spend this time now to work on me, to work on this, to work on that, to write the next chapter in the Shift trilogy.
Slow down, Bert. Slow down.
But it's that type of stuff that to not be sucked into, oh my gosh, this is the worst thing ever, and then get sucked into that situation, and to know it could be the greatest time ever.
And I was talking with someone. Sorry, I was talking with someone recently at exactly this point. And I think you're spot on, and I think your friend is doing awesome work as well. Because one of the things that I was talking to someone just the other day was because of what's happened, because of the massive amount of change and complexity and noise and disruption, everyone's kind of forgotten what 6 or 9 months ago was. They've kind of forgotten or don't even care what you were. There's the ability to reinvent yourself right now that hasn't been present in decades. Right now, because of the maelstrom that happened, there is this clean window now to go, you can be whatever you want to be. And there's so much less baggage attached to it because the baggage has been blown away by all the mess that's happened. So I agree with you. More than any other time, I think, in my living history, this is the ability for people to reinvent, to repurpose, to refocus, to do something different, do something new, get after it, because the world's changed. And that's challenging and beautiful. We often talk about people are both beautiful and broken at the same time, and every experiences are both. It's beautiful and it's broken. It's your choice where you put your energy.
Right. Absolutely.
You can't ignore the broken because it's there, but in the brokenness comes amazing beauty, and that's the place where the energy needs to flow and go.
And it's sometimes when you get broken that you really find yourself.
Absolutely. I just, your story that I've read, I think there's a bunch of truth in that. The pieces for me where the greatest shifts happened were the most tumultuous times and often the most physically painful times, emotionally, physically. They were really difficult, but they helped create change. And there's a lot of science. You're probably cleverer than me at this stuff, Bert, but there's a lot of science around brain working, and there's nowadays it shows that tension and distraction and this pain and this needing to shift is not just the physical end or the thing, it's actually chemical. When you're in that place, I often talk about, again, when people are kind of going really frustrated, I kind of go, awesome, that's brilliant. What are you talking about? I'm going, well, you're about to do some amazing work.
Right.
Because frustration is where the chemistry is the neurons are going bonkers. Right. They're going all over the place. If you keep in there, hold on to that discomfort, you're going to get some amazing insights and something to learn from. You're about to go through a shift. Right. Keep the frustration high. And it sounds hard. That makes no sense. Keep the frustration, because the frustration is in one way nothing more than a chemical representation of a bunch of neural pathways being changed.
Right.
That's frustration. And then when you solve whatever that is, you go to that place of next, you go beyond. You've just done a whole bunch of highway building in your brain. It's
Right.
amazing.
Wow.
So you can look at frustration as pain, or you can look at frustration as the potential to gain. It's your
Right.
call.
Right. Right. Well, you speak to so many groups, and you coach a lot of different folks, leader groups and employee groups. What are some of the nuggets that you could share without us having to have the Deering group come in?
Yeah.
And are there any nuggets that you could share with us?
Gosh. Look, there's always nuggets. And I think when I talk about teams and organizations, one of the things that we see a lot of, I see a lot, my team see a lot of, is it's really hard to know what you're meant to do when you don't understand what it is you do. So often, so on a team level, if I start there, organizational level, people don't necessarily understand the work they're being asked to do or the work they need to do. If you tick it up a level, leaders, and particularly, let's say, frontline manager type folk, we talk about leaders all the time. We don't necessarily skill people up with the ability to manage, and they're different things. We often talk about leadership's about lighting the fire, but management's about stoking it and keeping it going. And that's sort of some organizational stuff we see. And importantly, again, business. This is more business focused on this sort of stuff, Bert. But
Yeah.
We always talk about needing to build leaders, keep building leaders. Leaders' job is to build more leaders. I agree. Organizations, they don't often think about. They put leaders in this really challenging place where they often late teach people how to lead, but at no point do they teach anybody how to follow. You talked about it in the early part of our conversation about, people on that macro level. One of the things we try to do with organizations broadly is helping them understand what it means to follow. And because you can't lead if people won't follow,
Right.
So people put in leadership programs, but very few people put in fellowship programs.
Right. Right. Yes.
If I use an extreme example, well, not extreme, but just a polarity, we talk about having in a business about effective performance conversations, but at the fellowship level, we don't teach them how to have conversations. And unfortunately, we assume that everybody does, and our assumption is flawed because everybody has a different skill and ability in that space. How do we not help them have a conversation?
Right.
Thus, the leader has more ability because they know they're coming at a place of mutuality. We talk about up here around project management, and down here, we don't help people just understand time management.
Right.
So again, how do you get these two pieces meeting in a mutual space? And the language, which I think you will love, when we talk about leadership and fellowship, allows fellowship to occur.
Mm-hmm.
And when you're in that place of fellowship, that's where businesses really start to kick in and fire, because they're working from a place of mutuality, from a place of alignment. That's when you start, not only do things get better and more comfortable, people also start to make choices about not being there, which can also be helpful. Or on the other side of it is, it also starts to make more money, which
Right.
is partly why any business operates, is to make a profit.
And that's why I think you're ahead of your time here with to perpetuate, or not perpetuate, but to create kindness in the corporate structure there, to help empower the employees and the people in there to elevate their potential inside the framework there.
Absolutely.
Is fascinating.
Well, gosh, businesses constantly focus on those at the pointier end of the pyramid.
Sure.
And yet we forget about the whole base, and bases are also known as foundations. And if you don't have solid foundations, to use you talked about biblical context before, if you build on the sand versus the rock, we got a problem. And so often businesses are so busy building on, they treat their people like sand that can come and go and can be blown around. It's irrelevant. But if you can put a stronger foundation there, wow, that's where you start to generate a much more stable house. And you're right, the kindness piece. A lot of folk, I suspect, who may listen to this, Bert, kind of go, well, kind is that's a nice word. That's nice. Like, yes, I try to be kind. It's nice to be kind. And I just kind of go, oh, wow. Like the chapter in the book talks about this. Kind is not a 4-letter word. And the piece around that is obviously not the 4 letters that we got in trouble as kids for, that we got soap in the mouth, but it's the 4 letters where the things I often hear is kind is nice, it's soft, it's weak, it's easy. And the experience that I try to do with leaders is incorporating this inside, because it's obviously their work. I can only help them. But the experiences around kindness is absolutely a critical part of your leadership journey, a critical part of your leadership competencies, because kindness is hard work. Kindness is the person who has that conversation in service to the other, even when it's really difficult. Because the easy person just slip around them and just doesn't actually have that chat. Kindness is having that honest conversation, doing that honest work. It's about it's tough, it's hard, it's effort. And those of us who have kids, partners, etc., we do know that kindness isn't always easy, and our kids don't always love us for it, but they do.
Right. Yeah. Sometimes my kids get a little frustrated with me, and they want to sink down and not be noticed when I go out and do something for a stranger or something like that. We make up these blessings in a bag that we give to the homeless people that we run into. But
Right.
slowly the kids they get into it a little bit, and it's nice to see them when they say, "Hey, here's somebody. Let me get the bag and let me give it to them." But they used to just shrink down and not even want to participate or be involved.
Can I say, Bert, how powerful that is, and how honored I am to talk to someone who lives that life, because that expression of kindness and love for those individuals, it's such a high expression, because you don't know these folk, but let's be honest, we're all part of humanity. We're all one level of existence here, and being able to do those works, it's just amazing.
Thank you.
And like I said, your awesomeness piece is also just amazing. To encourage others to be more awesome. If we just all took away just that simplicity of your message to say, I'm going to try to be more awesome, and I'm going to try to help one other person to be more awesome. Wow.
That's our the philosophy behind awesome is every time you make just one person feel awesome, the world is a better place, because you've changed it by that one act of kindness or generosity or whatever that you have changed. And the ripple effects, we haven't even discussed that. We always try to chat about the ripple effects of what that type of process does. And in the corporate culture, I'm sure that you see that in your investigations.
Oh, look, you just get a whole different level of conversation appears. It just changes organizations. The real like we're talking about before, real conversations, they start to become apparent, and they're given in kindness. They're not given in aggressive space. They're given in true kind. Like, as people learn with this, and look, we all stumble. Like, I'm not Mr. Perfect kind every day of the week, but I'm learning, and I'm willing to learn, and I'm willing to say sorry. And I'm willing to realize when I don't do well.
Right.
And your piece there as well, we often look for big things to do with kindness or with awesome. It might just be that person at the checkout counter as you're buying your food, and you're just going, hey, great, thanks very much. That was really good. I appreciated your help today. And you just don't know how much that stuff echoes and how far, like you said, ripples. You just don't know. And you don't need to know, but guarantee you it does. Absolutely.
And reading your stuff on LinkedIn, it's about the sincerity of providing that type of kindness is where the power comes from, I believe, from the things that I've read that you've done.
Yeah, look, yes, I hope so. I think so. And if my example, and I encourage everybody, in like yourself, the work you're doing is such a beautiful act of kindness, and it's kindness to me. There's lots of amazing definitions of it, but for me, it's as simple as being in service to others with no expectation of return. Like that's to me around kindness. That's that piece where you're just getting it out there. What the work you talked about with you and the kids doing, and while they may be a little uncomfortable at times, the example you're giving is just amazing.
Wow.
The example that they're going to live, and they're going to start doing their own version of that at time when they are able and ready is just amazing. And businesses, similarly, it's the same thing. When a leader, it's we can go into lots of examples, but when leaders find that space to be, Brené Brown talks about vulnerability. It's another big important part of leadership competencies, and sits right beside the kindness piece. When leaders are willing to say, "Hey, I stuffed up, but let's work out how we can fix this."
Right.
You shift, organizations shift, teams shift, versus the "I'm never wrong." We see leaders at the moment globally who "I'm never wrong, I'm always right." Wow. What a little bit of kindness and vulnerability might do there, or a little bit of sharing some awesome.
Yeah, it would be. Well, this has been awesome, Andrew. I know that you have to start your day today and get going, and I really appreciate you taking the time to be with us. Is there anything else that you would like to share with us? I want to ask everyone to at least go to your website, andrewdeering.com, to check out your book and where to get it, the link to where to get it, and take a look at it. I think that would be very empowering for them to appreciate your book.
Yeah, thanks, Bert. And look, the book is all about you having a conversation with you, the conversation we least have and we most need. I was just talking to someone yesterday, someone I was doing some coaching work with, and asking them about how often they spend time with themselves. And this book is all about, like, it's written in my language, my word, my conversation, but it's meant to help you have a chat with you, because you are amazing. Everyone who's listening to hear, anyone who chooses to listen, anyone who hasn't listened, everybody's amazing. They've got so much potential. Go and unlock it and make the world a better place. Make the world a bit more awesome.
Yes. Well, that's great. Well, hang tight there. Chrissy's going to take us out. But thank you to Chrissy, as always, for helping us be numero uno in charge of this awesome live stream here. And she's going to take us out with a little video. But I'd love to chat with you just a second more in the green room to say farewell.
Gladly. And it's been a privilege, and thank you. And I tell everybody to jump on, shine your light, get on there and have a look. It's definitely worth having a read. And there's so much there to help lift your spirit.
Thank you, Andrew.
Pleasure. Thanks, everyone.
Awesome is a free social networking game focusing on positivity. Engage in a variety of awesome challenges to spread positivity in the world. Watch as the ring around your profile glows brighter, changes colors, and gets more animated as you earn points sharing in awesome. Share your own awesome world and see how much awesome you are creating by watching the leaderboard. Purchase ad gift points to help your friends level up in the form of shiny animated coins. You are awesome. Download today.